It is a privilege to welcome you to Stand Up and Redo. It is a soulful, honest podcast hosted by me, Petra DeMuse, a woman over 50 who is navigating life's most tender transitions with courage and grace. I have weathered the storms of 2 divorces, raised children into adults, embraced the joy of grandchildren, and learned, perhaps for the first time, how to stand comfortably in my own solitude. Each episode explores the profound wisdom that comes with age, the lessons etched in heartache, the beauty found in unexpected places, the laughter that bubbles up in the quiet, and the peace that settles when we stop running from ourselves. With reflections on love, loss, aging, happiness, and the sacredness of this one wild and precious life, Stand Up and Redo is a companion for anyone who's learning to live fully after everything they thought would last has changed. This is a space for late bloomers, deep feelers, and fierce survivors. Come for the comfort, stay for the truth, and leave a little lighter each time. Do you find that you pray to God and you just give him a list and you just tell him what you want? You say, "Dear Lord, help me to have a good, successful day today. Help me to be strong. Help me to be successful in my job. Help me to do something kind for someone. Help me." Just give him a list of everything that you want him to do. Well, let's talk about that. I am ecstatic that you are here. I am thrilled that you are listening to my podcast, Stand Up and Redo. This podcast is just soulful, from the heart, and honest. And the topics are, well, all over the place. But this is just me talking about something near and dear to my heart that I felt compelled to talk about this morning. And it's prayer. Prayer is just, wow. If you don't have a relationship with God and even the ability to pray directly to him and feel just the power and the peace that he can give you, I just urge you to try it, to try praying. But I want to talk about my experience with prayer and essentially what I just talked about, giving God a list. Giving God a list of what I want, what you want, telling him, checking off the list, but to approach it in a different way. And I'm not saying that you can't tell God what you want. He wants us to tell him what he wants. He wants you to be happy and have peace and love, and he wants you to feel joyful. And I'm going to list a whole bunch of verses. Actually, at the end, I'm going to say them and share them with you. But right now, I want to tell you about something a pastor, and I feel horrible. I can't remember if it was my pastor, Jason Mitchell at LCBC, or if it was Stephen Furtick at Elevation Church, because they're 2 pastors I always listen to. I really like both of them, and I urge you to listen to them. They both have podcasts and YouTube channels, and I'll say it again. It's Jason Mitchell. He's my pastor at my church, LCBC, and then also Stephen Furtick, the pastor of Elevation Church. Well, at one of their sermons, they made a statement. And I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was, but you're going to benefit from listening to both of them. They said to take your hands and just hold them out, palms up, and just say to God, "Surprise me." And every so often, I get so overwhelmed just with the everyday, like, what direction am I supposed to go in? What am I supposed to do? And my prayers are all over the place. And I do start giving God these lists of things that I want, or anxieties that I want to put before him. And I just list every detail. And I guess I pray without ceasing. And God's probably like, "Oh my goodness, here she goes again." But sometimes I just realize, and it's really hard to do. It's really hard to do for me to just not list what I want from God or what I need from him, but just to take my hands and palms up, put my head down and stop and not ask him for anything, but just put everything before him and say, "Dear God, surprise me." And when I say that, it's not just saying surprise me. It's saying that I'm giving over my anxieties, my fears, control of my life. Control, that's the big word. Saying that I am willing to give control to God. And that is hard, especially for people like me who want to be in control, and people like you who want to be in control. I think control is what we don't want to lose, right? We have that fear of control. Or we also, here we go to the second part of this prayer, is we know that things have to change in our life, and we're afraid to give God carte blanche
to do what we know has to be done. And sometimes I do believe God will, I don't want to say he's testing us because I don't like to use that word testing. There's two things in my faith and my relationship with God, well, that I don't like to think about. God testing me or me testing God. And I think if I say God testing me, what I mean is I don't really believe he always puts us through these crazy trials and tribulations just to test us. I think maybe it's to make us stronger or to make us see something or to open our eyes or to make us realize something. And I don't believe that I should test by saying to God, "Dear Lord, give me a sign," or "If you do this for me, then I'll know." I just feel like we aren't supposed to do that to God. I feel like we have to have faith in God and just, well, open our hands, palms up, and say, "Surprise me." And when I say surprise me, it just means giving to God. So I did that. One morning I was sitting in my little prayer chair. It's like a yellow chair that I do devotions in the mornings. And after I do my devotions, I pray. And sometimes my devotions are 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Sometimes my devotions are just 5 minutes. And I just read one chapter in the Bible. And then I do a prayer. And sometimes my prayer is really heartfelt and I feel connected to God. And sometimes my prayer is hardly anything at all because I can't focus because I'm so stressed about maybe things that are happening that day or I'm preoccupied in my thoughts. And I used to not pray when I felt like that because I'd be like, oh, I just can't pray. I got to just move on, get on with my day because I'm too stressed and I can't focus, and I would just stop. But what I've done now with that time when I pray, when I'm not able to focus or pray, I just stop and sit in silence and give God time to maybe reach me somehow. I just say, "Dear Lord, please be with me today." And I just wait there and I don't tell him what to do and I don't unload on him or praise his name. I just wait on the Lord, I guess. But I think the one thing that has been very an eye-opening revelation to me is doing this thing where I turn my hands up and say, "Surprise me." I haven't done it that many times. Maybe like 4 times I've done it. It's not like something I do every day. And I think you can choose how you want to do this. This is your own personal relationship with God. But mine is done when I turn my palms up, put my head down and say, "Dear Lord, surprise me," is when I find I'm trying to control my life to the point that I'm not even listening to God. I'm just telling him what I want. And I want to give you a story about the one time it happened where God did surprise me. I was sitting in a little yellow chair and I was at a point where in my life I had been working at the hospital and I was in charge and I was a little bit needed a change. Like I knew I needed a change, but I didn't want to believe that I needed a change because I did my job really well. I felt like I was really good at it. I had left another job that I felt like I was really good at. And I kind of felt like a quitter, but I also didn't feel like a quitter because I knew God had a plan for me. Well, I had been having this really strong pain in my abdomen, and I was over my lower right quadrant, and it was really strong, and I had gotten then a fever one day that knocked me out. I mean, I was like so feverish, and I don't ever get sick. So for me to get sick with a fever to the point where I'm laying in bed was just a huge deal. And I was like, wow, something's really wrong with me. And I kind of knew I needed to go to the hospital because the pain was so intense. And went to the hospital and got testing done. And lo and behold, they called me and they had told me that they found and I couldn't believe this. It was unreal. And they told me they found a 6 centimeter. Now, 6 centimeter is really large if you're thinking about in terms of like a little mass or anything. It's a pretty large, significant mass that they saw in my colon. And I was just in shock. I couldn't believe that they saw this. And I was like, I have colon cancer. Okay. So I was fortunate. I have a personal relationship with the GI doctors at the little hospital I worked at. And I called the hospital and I just said, what's the available appointment that I can get a colonoscopy? When's the first available appointment? And I knew all the GI docs I worked with were amazing and I really trusted all of them. I was the manager of clinical director, clinical manager at the little hospital, knew all the doctors really well and just said, listen, just get me in with the first guy that has an available appointment. And it happened to be one of the older doctors that I'd worked with for such a long time, who just had such a big heart and such a good guy. And I went into the hospital, and I was in a hospital where I knew everybody. I knew all the anesthesia department, and I knew the GI doctor. And it's so weird when you go in, and I went in strong. Like I went in, I was surprised first off, the attitude that you take when you find out you have cancer or you have something wrong. It's different. Like it's so weird because you go in, I was surprised my attitude was, all right, I'm going to take care of this. This is going to be out of my body like soon. Like I just went in with like a mindset of I'm going to kick its butt, which is weird that you think that because we are vulnerable to whatever we get or whatever happens to us. We don't always have control of what happens to us. Obviously, I wouldn't want to have colon cancer. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to kick its butt, right? And every person in there just walked up to me with this face expression like they felt sorry for me. And they looked like they wanted to cry or they were concerned for me, which is good that they were like that because it makes you feel like you're loved and cared for. But it also, I was like, wait a minute here. No, this is going to be okay. Like, this is going to, in my mindset, I was like, wait a minute. What? Don't be sad for me. And I remember the same feeling I had when I was in a really bad car accident. And everybody that came to visit me, because I ended up in traction for like, oh my gosh, it was forever. I don't even remember how many weeks it was. I think I probably say a different number every time, but I think I was in traction for like a good almost 12 weeks. Could it have been that long? Wait a minute. Let me think about this. I was in the car accident in March, April, May. So it was eight weeks I was in traction. I was in traction for 8 weeks. And every person that came in to see me in that hospital after that car accident looked like they wanted to almost cry for me. And it was like you end up comforting those people when you're in a situation where you're hurt or suffering. You feel like you're comforting them. And I remember when I went to visit my uncle Brian in the hospital when he was dying of cancer. I just remembering how I felt when people felt sorry for me when I was in the hospital or in a vulnerable situation. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel sorry for people and comfort them. But I just remember thinking, I'm going to go visit my Uncle Brian and just be a beacon of cheer and light and just try my hardest to just love him without thinking or obsessing on his cancer and just sit with him and love him and talk to him in a way that makes him feel joyful and laugh with him and not ask him all these detailed questions about his cancer. I'm just going to love on him as a man, as a person, that I love, who I love, and who I just did when I went and visited him. I needed to visit him a lot, maybe like 3 times. But each time I went, when he was in the hospital, I just didn't obsess on the cancer. I don't know. We talked about him. And it was wonderful. I don't know how he felt. He laughed because he's my uncle and he has just this amazing, cheerful personality. But I remember that feeling of dread when people walk in and look at you and you're comforting them when you're going through a crisis. But anyway, so what I wanted to say was I had put my hands up and asked God to surprise me. Literally, that prayer was then the next day after I said, "Dear God, surprise me," was when I got that report from that radiology procedure that said I had a 6-centimeter mass. So within a week, I got in for a colonoscopy because that was really going to be able to see the mass. It was right in my right colon, it said. And this was going to be the thing that identified my mass. And, they're going to take biopsies and all this. So they sedate me. And usually they give you a little Versed if you're nervous and propofol. And I said to my anesthesiologist, I said, I don't want Versed today. Just give me straight propofol because I don't want to not be able to talk to the doctor when I wake up. And Versed is something that I don't think I've ever had it, but when we used to give it to patients, it would make them like totally chill out. I mean, just totally. Actually, no, that's not true. They gave it to me on the way in when I did have my gallbladder taken out. And I remember they gave me some, I think, on my way into the OR to calm me down. And it is like, I don't want to say magical, but I felt really relaxed. But anyway, they didn't give me that. I got straight propofol. And honestly, I went into that endoscopy procedure room and don't remember anything then but waking up in the recovery room. And my doctor walked up to me and he goes, "Petra, this is amazing. You don't have a mass. There's nothing in there." He goes, "Your colon is absolutely beautiful." And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. My prep was good. Everything was clear. My pictures were just this glistening, beautiful colon. It didn't even have any diverticulosis. It didn't have anything. It was just like this perfect colonoscopy. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And I believe I was really sick and had some kind of either inflammation. And it even said in the report, no signs of inflammation. Not signs of inflammation. Colon mass actually said no signs of inflammation in the report. So I never dreamed it was anything but exactly what the impression said. It said it's a 6-centimeter mass. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that. If it was that, God took it away, right? Like, I know it sounds like I'm acting like it's a miracle, but it could have been a miracle, right? It could have been a miracle. It could have been a miracle. But I can tell you, the prayers up, hands up, palms up prayer, God surprised me. I don't really feel like it was that exact experience, that moment, that was what the surprise was from God. That moment of thinking I had colon cancer for that week, it was a whole week, it was time because I had to get in for the colonoscopy and that takes time. So each day I just had thought I had cancer. And I know there's people that do have cancer. I know a lot of people close to me that have had cancer and gone through this journey. So I'm not speaking light of cancer when I say I didn't have it after that week, but I know the thoughts that I went through in that week time. Wow, you go through a lot of emotion. And I think having that experience put me in a place in my life that I rethought about everything. I thought about time. I thought about the job that I had because I wanted to change jobs and I was just afraid to because I kept thinking, well, there's no reason for me to change jobs. But in my heart, I wanted to. I wanted a better, more different, more challenging experience. And I was afraid to do it. But I did it after that. That feeling of knowing that you only have a little bit of time to live, or that you might only have a little bit of time to live, or that it might go this way or it might go that way, or that your whole life was going to, in one moment, makes you think about your whole life. And that God surprised me prayer just took me in a different direction in my whole life, honestly. It made me think about a lot of things and do things a lot differently, and make some bold moves in my life. It did. And I always feel like when we say God surprised me, then what we have to do is let God surprise us. We have to trust Him. We have to trust God, right? We can't say God surprised me and then in our minds still want to tell God what to do. And the second time, well, this might have been the third or fourth time, because I did ask him to do it like 4 times. These 2 times I really remember. The time with the cancer diagnosis that wasn't cancer. And then this time, I had been in a relationship and I had really felt safe with him, really safe with him. And this is why this relationship was amazing. I just felt like we were going to move forward into maybe even being together forever. That's why I was still with them. We were together for a year. And I really felt like this might have been my person. And there were so many things that made me think he was my person and perfect for me. But then there were some things in that last month before we broke up, that all of a sudden I was really nervous about. I was just questioning why I was with the person that in my gut, I just didn't understand why I was going down the same path that I'd been down before. I'll just say that. I won't get into details about why I questioned the relationship, but I wanted so much for this relationship to work. I selfishly wanted to tell God everything I wanted in this relationship, and I wasn't going to end the relationship. But my gut told me after a year in, that I needed to end it somehow, and I didn't want to. Didn't want to at all. Well, I did that thing where I took my hands and I turned them up, palms up to God, and I stopped giving God the list of what I wanted. And I said, "Dear God, surprise me," essentially. With dread, I said it. With dread. I said it with dread. Because I knew that I needed to make some big changes. I knew it, and I didn't want to. So literally the next day, I'm not even kidding, the next day, I found out that person who I thought was my person was pursuing another woman, essentially, and he was doing it secretly. And it was something I found out wasn't supposed to find it out. That was even harder because it was a secret that he was in hot pursuit. And whether it was in pursuit for a quick fool around or a forever relationship, I don't know. And it doesn't matter because that's over now. But wow, that was a surprise. And guess what happened? That relationship ended. And I knew that I wasn't strong enough, that I wasn't in control of my life. And I was pretending I was, and I was trying to tell God what I wanted. And I was trying to tell God what to do. And I put my palms up and I just said, "Surprise me." And he did. I challenge you to pray that way. And I'm going to tell you, my stand up and redo right now is to know that when I get to that point where I'm trying to completely control every single thing in my life and completely tell God every single thing that I want him to do for me, I know that is that moment that I need to just stop. I need to take a deep breath and I need to just give it to God. And however you say it, however you do it, if you just say, "God, I give this to you," or if you just say, "God, surprise me," he'll do it. And that's my stand up and redo. To always remember that I have that to do. Thank you.
This podcast is a work based on the personal experiences, reflections, and memories of the speaker. The events described are true to the best of the speaker's knowledge and recollection. Some names, locations, identifying characteristics, and timelines have been changed or altered to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. In some cases, composite characters have been created or dialogue has been reconstructed based on memory. The intention of this podcast is not to defame, malign, or harm any individual or entity. Rather, it is to share the speaker's journey with honesty, vulnerability, and integrity. Any opinions expressed are solely those of the speaker and are not intended as statements of fact regarding any person, group, or organization. Listeners should keep in mind that human memory is inherently subjective and selective, and while every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, this podcast reflects the speaker's perspective and truth. Thank you.